watch them on our screens, living lives of unimaginable luxury. Private jets, sprawling mansions, fleets of supercars. It seems like the money will never run out. But for these stars, the limelight faded to reveal the grim reality of bankruptcy court, massive debt, and financial ruin. Here are celebrities who had it all and lost it in the most unbelievable ways. Find out which superstar blew $400,000 on a single party and which one bought an entire town that bankrupted them. 10. 50 Cent, the hustle that almost broke him. At his peak, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson was the embodiment of the get rich or die trying ethos. With the monumental success of his debut album, lucrative vitamin water endorsement deal, which netted him an estimated $100 million payday, and various business ventures, his net worth soared to an estimated $150 million. He was a case study in modern hip-hop entrepreneurship. However, his aggressive, confrontational persona and high-risk financial bets eventually led him to the brink. His downfall was a combination of legal hubris and failed investments. The most publicized issue was his feud with rapper Rick Ross. In a move of profound miscalculation, 50 Cent obtained and posted online a sex tape featuring Ross's ex-girlfriend, Lastonia Leviston. She successfully sued him for invasion of privacy, and a court ordered him to pay her $5 million in damages. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. The SEC uncovered that he had engaged in a pump-and-dump scheme involving a company called H&H Imports, promoting their stock on social media without disclosing he was being paid to do so. This resulted in a further $6.2 million fine. Simultaneously, his headphone company, SMS Audio, was struggling and failing to compete in a crowded market, bleeding millions. By 2015, the man who famously rapped about having $1 million worth of game was forced to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing assets of $16 million against debts of $36 million. The bankruptcy was strategic, allowing him to restructure his debts, particularly the Leviston judgment, which he eventually settled for a fraction of the amount. It was a stark lesson that even the savviest hustler can overplay their hand. His subsequent success with his G-Unit film and television studio proves that for some, bankruptcy isn't an end. It's just a brutal financial reset. 9. Kim Basinger, the Hollywood star who bought a ghost town. In the late 1980s, Kim Basinger was one of the most sought-after actresses in Hollywood. Fresh off her role as Vicky Vale in Tim Burton's Batman, she had the world at her feet and money in the bank. Driven by a dream of creating an artist retreat and tourist destination, she and her brother made an impulsive and breathtakingly ambitious decision. In 1989, they spent $20 million to purchase the entire 1,700-acre town of Brazelton, Georgia. The plan was wildly optimistic. The town, while charming, was not a natural tourist hotspot. Development costs skyrocketed, and the projected revenue never materialized. The investment became a black hole for her finances. As this disaster was unfolding, she became entangled in a catastrophic lawsuit. She had verbally agreed to star in the film Boxing Helena, directed by Jennifer Lynch. After reading the final script, Basinger found it exploitative and backed out, believing she had the right to refuse the project. The production company, Mainline Pictures, sued her for breach of contract, claiming her withdrawal doomed the film. A jury agreed and hit her with a devastating $8.9 million judgment. The 1-2 punch of the failing town and the massive lawsuit was too much. In 1993, she filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The bankruptcy process forced her to sell Brazelton for a mere $1 million, a catastrophic $19 million loss. Her career survived, but it took years of steady work to recover financially. The story of Kim Basinger is a timeless lesson in the dangers of emotional investing and the immense weight of a verbal contract in Hollywood. 8. Curt Schilling, the $50 million fastball that missed the plate. Curt Schilling wasn't just a baseball legend, he was a World Series hero for the Arizona Diamondbacks and Boston Red Sox, known for his bloody sock and clutch performances. Over his 20-year career, he earned an estimated $114 million in salary alone. In retirement, he turned his passion for video games into a new venture, 38 studios, named after his jersey number. The company's first project, Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning, was a single-player RPG that received decent reviews and sold over 1.2 million copies in its first 90 days. By most measures, it was a success, but Schilling's vision was far grander. He wanted to build a massive subscription-based MMORPG, massively multiplayer online role-playing game set in the same world, a project requiring immense capital. To fund this expansion, Schilling lobbied the state of Rhode Island for a $75 million loan guarantee, promising to bring hundreds of jobs to the state. The deal was approved amidst much controversy. Schilling, supremely confident, plowed $50 million of his own fortune into the company. However, the management was in over its head. Burn rate was astronomical. The MMORPG was years from completion, and revenue from Reckoning wasn't enough to sustain the company's massive overhead. Just months after a triumphant launch party, 38 studios collapsed in a spectacular heap, laying off all employees and defaulting on the loan. In 2012, Schilling filed for bankruptcy, listing debts of a mind-boggling $150.7 million. The fallout was immense. Rhode Island taxpayers were left on the hook for millions, and Schilling's reputation as a business leader was destroyed. He lost his entire life's savings, a stark reminder that passion and past success are no substitute for sound financial management and realistic planning, especially when gambling with 9 figures. 7. Toni Braxton, the voice that couldn't outsign bad contracts. Toni Braxton's story is a brutal exposé of the dark side of the music industry and the perils of poor financial planning. After her self-titled debut album sold 10 million copies worldwide, she appeared set for life. However, her contract with LaFace Records was notoriously bad. While her albums generated hundreds of millions of dollars, she was paid a minuscule royalty rate after the label recouped all production, marketing, and video costs, a process that always seemed to leave her in debt to the label despite her success. After her multi-platinum album Secrets and its monumental hit, Unbreak My Heart, she sued LaFace to void her contract, claiming it was exploitative. She won her freedom but was left with millions in legal fees. Combined with a lavish lifestyle, reportedly spending fortunes on designer clothes, luxury cars, and real estate, she was financially vulnerable. In 1998, at the height of her fame, she filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, revealing she had debts of nearly $4 million. She staged a remarkable comeback in the 2000s with a Las Vegas residency and reality TV show. But tragedy struck again in the form of health issues. She was diagnosed with lupus, a debilitating autoimmune disease, and was forced to cancel performances. The loss of income, coupled with more medical bills, drove her to a second bankruptcy filing in 2010. This time she listed debts between $10 and $50 million. Toni Braxton's twin bankruptcies highlight a cruel truth. Even immense talent is no shield against predatory contracts, illness, and the temptation to spend like the superstar you are, even if the bank account doesn't match the image. 6. Nicolas Cage, a Shakespearean tragedy of spending. Nicolas Cage's financial saga is less a meltdown and more a performance art piece about consumption. At the peak of his career, he was one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors, commanding $20 million per film and amassing $150 million fortune. But Cage didn't just spend money, he embarked on a legendary compulsive acquisition spree fueled by a desire to collect everything. His real estate portfolio was a globe-trotting eccentric's dream: a $15 million Suffolk castle in England, a $7 million Midford Castle in Somerset, a $8.7 million haunted La Laurie House in New Orleans where infamous tortures had occurred, a $25 million waterfront estate in Newport, Rhode Island, and a $3 million private island in the Bahamas. But the houses were just the containers for his true passion: artifacts. His purchases became the stuff of legend: a $276,000 dinosaur skull, later seized by the government as it was illegally imported from Mongolia, a $150,000 pet octopus, 2 albino king cobras. A $1.5 million Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman, a $1 million copy of the first Superman comic, a shrunken pygmy head, and a $210,000 vintage comic book featuring the first Marvel superhero. This frantic spending wasn't sustainable. When the 2008 financial crisis hit and film offers became less frequent, the House of Cards collapsed. He owed the IRS $14 million in back taxes. He was forced into a fire sale, unloading his prized possessions and properties, often at a significant loss. He filed for bankruptcy in 2009, though the case was dismissed as he began aggressively working to pay his debts. Cage's story is a modern-day parable about the void that material possessions cannot fill, proving that even an action hero is no match for the IRS and compound interest. 5. MC Hammer, the House of Cards built on parachute pants. In the early 1990s, MC Hammer wasn't just a rapper. He was a global phenomenon. You Can't Touch This was inescapable. He was earning a reported $33 million a year from music, touring, and endorsements. He built a colossal 40,000 square foot mansion in Fremont, California, dubbed Hammer Manor. It was a technological marvel for its time, featuring gold-plated gates, a recording studio, a baseball diamond, 2 pools, 3 waterfalls, and a personal nightclub. His entourage, the Posse, swelled to over 200 people, including dancers, managers, stylists, and security, all on his payroll at a cost of over $500,000 per month. He owned a fleet of luxury cars and a stable of racehorses. The problem was simple. He was spending money faster than he could make it. When musical taste shifted towards grunge and gangsta rap, his revenue stream evaporated almost overnight. But the bills for his extravagant lifestyle kept coming. By 1996, the party was over. He filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing debts of $13.7 million. His creditors included the IRS, $1.1 million in back taxes, his former financial advisor, his own brother, and even a limousine company. Everything was sold off. Hammer's story is the quintessential cautionary tale of rapid fame and even more rapid spending, proving that without financial discipline, a $70 million fortune can vanish in the blink of an eye. 4. Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet, and his bank account. Mike Tyson's earning power in the ring was otherworldly. At his peak, he earned over $400 million throughout his career, including a single fight against Lennox Lewis that netted him $35 million. His spending was equally historic, a chaotic blend of immense generosity and sheer madness. He was a product of sudden, overwhelming wealth with no one to guide him. His entourage was enormous, and he supported countless hangers-on. He purchased luxury mansions and over 150 cars, including a $410,000 Rolls-Royce Silver Spur he promptly gave to a friend. He owned 3 white Bengal tigers costing $140,000 to purchase and $125,000 a year to care for. He famously spent $2 million on a solid gold bathtub for his first wife and $410,000 on a single birthday party, which he later faxed the bill to his promoter, Don King. But his financial management was non-existent. He famously fired his financial manager for trying to control his spending. He claimed Don King cheated him out of millions, a charge upheld in court, though he was awarded only a fraction of what he sought. By 2003, Iron Mike was financially knocked out. He filed for bankruptcy, citing $23 million in debt, including a $9 million tax bill from the UK and thousands in unpaid child support. Tyson's story is the ultimate example of financial illiteracy and the danger of having no one willing to say no. 3. Burt Reynolds, the Mustache, the Bandit, and the Bad Restaurants. In the 1970s, Burt Reynolds was the biggest movie star in the world. For years, he was the #1 box office draw. He commanded a then unimaginable $10 million per movie. He lived the part, spending his wealth on a custom-made Trans Am, a private jet, a helicopter, a 150-acre ranch in Florida with 150 horses, and an extensive collection of expensive hairpieces. His downfall was not his flamboyant lifestyle, but a series of catastrophically bad investments. The most infamous was his foray into the restaurant business. He invested millions into a down-home country cooking chain called Po Folks. The concept failed to catch on, and the chain went bankrupt, taking a significant chunk of Reynolds' fortune with it. In a desperate attempt to recoup his losses, his business manager advised him to double down and invest in another chain, Daisy Diner. It too failed spectacularly, costing him and his partners over $20 million. This financial blow was followed by a costly and public divorce from Lonnie Anderson. The legal fees and settlement drained him further. By 1996, he was unable to pay back a multi-million-dollar loan he had taken out against his future film earnings. He filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, listing debts of over $10 million. The man who had everything, fame, fortune, and adoration, lost it all to a pair of failed family restaurants, proving that even the most successful need to stick to what they know. 2. The Hard Lesson. Dana White's First Millions. This entry is unique because it features a star who almost went broke before most people knew his name. Before he was the bald, brash president of the UFC, Dana White was a young boxing and MMA enthusiast who came into a sudden windfall. In the early 2000s, after the UFC's first major success, White received a multi-million-dollar payout. As he himself tells the story on numerous podcasts, he immediately lost his mind. He went on an insane, impulsive spending spree. He bought multiple luxury cars, Ferraris, Porsches, Bentleys, a massive new house, and expensive jewelry. He indulged every whim, treating friends and family to extravagant gifts and vacations. In his own words, he pissed it away in a matter of months and was effectively broke again shortly after becoming a millionaire. This humiliating and painful experience became the foundational lesson of his life. It taught him brutal discipline about money, investing, and long-term planning. He has credited this failure as the single greatest reason for his subsequent success. When he and the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC for $2 million, he approached it with a scrappy, value-driven mindset. He wasn't playing with house money anymore. He was building an empire. His story is the ultimate lesson that sometimes you have to lose it all to learn how to truly build something that lasts. 1. Tragic lesson. Michael Carroll's lottery nightmare. Topping our list isn't a traditional celebrity, but a story so stark it deserves the #1 spot as the ultimate warning. In 2002, 19-year-old Michael Carroll, a British garbage collector or dustman, won a £9.7 million, over $15 million at the time, national lottery jackpot. He immediately embarked on a decade-long bender of epic Shakespearean proportions. He dubbed himself the King of Chavs and lived up to the title. He spent £500,000 on cocaine, £1.2 million on orgiastic parties, and gave away over £4 million to friends and hangers-on. He bought a mansion and promptly trashed it, hosting raves that required a JCB bulldozer to clean up afterward. His car collection was wrecked in various crashes and incidents. He hired a personal chauffeur, a bodyguard, and even retained 2 prostitutes on a permanent salary. The money vanished with breathtaking speed. By 2012, a mere decade later, every single penny was gone. His mansion was repossessed, his friends disappeared, and his assets were sold. He was found broke, living in a modest rented house and working a £10 an hour job, back as a dustman. Reflecting on his experience, he stated, "I was a dustman when I won, and now I'm a dustman again. It was a great party while it lasted." Michael Carroll's story is the purest, most undiluted example of financial ruin. It strips away the complexities of bad investments or lawsuits and reveals the raw, destructive power of unchecked hedonism and a complete lack of financial literacy. It serves as the final, dramatic word. No amount of money is safe from a person determined to waste it.